parties, of course, meeting for the first time in court today. It was about a 90-minute hearing.
This isn't going to end well for you, Blake. Sorry.
The same tactic that they're doing over and over again of trying to manipulate the courts to get what they want.
Because she allegedly has had some very bad experiences with Justin Baldoni.
Judge Lehman responds to this order.
Sometimes people judge you before they give you a chance.
Blake Lively just lost in court again, and at this point, her legal team has to be wondering if they'll ever catch a break. This is her second major courtroom defeat in a row, and it's turning into an absolute disaster. You can almost picture her lawyers scrambling, panicking, desperately trying to come up with a strategy that doesn't backfire.
That we found out that Blake Lively's team, according to her attorney, is actually planning to file an amended complaint in their lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and others. According to her attorney, Michael Gottlieb, that is going to include new claims from Blake Lively, and they're going to be bringing this lawsuit against new defendants.
But no matter what they do, the judge isn't having it, and the walls are closing in. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, oh, it did. From a key witness turning her back on Blake to a brutal legal smackdown that exposed her team's moves as completely manipulative, this case is spiraling out of control. And with $400 million on the line, she might be on the verge of losing everything. So, what exactly went wrong? And is there any way Blake can turn this around before it's too late?
But he got a very strong tip from somebody regarding Jenny Slate potentially being brought into the suit.
Jenny was a strong supporter of Blake and even called her a good friend.
This was a statement she released. She said, "As Blake Lively's castmate and friend, I voice my support as she takes action against those reported to have planned and carried out an attack on her reputation. Blake is a leader, loyal friend, and a trusted source of emotional support for me and so many who know and love her. What has been revealed about the attack on Blake is terribly dark, disturbing, and wholly threatening," she added. "I commend my friend, I admire her bravery, and I stand by her side."
Let's break it all down. Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni was supposed to be a slam dunk. From the moment her legal team filed the case, they walked into the courtroom oozing confidence, like they had already won before the trial had even begun. Their strategy? Hit hard and fast. They came in with what they claimed was damning evidence, documents and testimonies they believed would seal the case and leave Baldoni with no way out. To the public, it looked like a major win in the making, a Hollywood star taking on a powerful industry figure with an airtight legal argument. But then, everything went sideways. As soon as the judge reviewed Blake's so-called evidence, he didn't just question it, he tossed it out completely. The courtroom went dead silent. Blake's lawyers, who had spent months hyping up this case, were now left scrambling to come up with a backup plan. It was like watching someone brag about a royal flush, only to realize they were holding nothing but a handful of mismatched cards. It turned out that a huge chunk of their evidence was completely inadmissible. Some documents lacked proper verification and other claims. They didn't hold up under scrutiny. Even worse, some of the allegations were so vague that the judge basically called them meaningless. This was bad, really bad. In the span of a single court session, Blake's case collapsed before it even got started. The legal team, who had walked in looking like winners, now looked lost, desperate, and completely unprepared. And when a lawyer looks unprepared in court, that's a death sentence for their case. With no solid evidence left, Blake's team had no choice but to stall. They immediately begged the judge for more time, arguing that they needed a chance to rebuild their case. They swore up and down that they had more evidence coming, that they could find new witnesses, and that they would expand the case beyond just Baldoni. The judge, likely rolling his eyes at this circus, reluctantly agreed, but only under one condition. They had until February 14th to come back with something stronger. That's right, Valentine's Day.
Then filed 2 days ago for an extension. They're like, actually, we're not going to be able to make that amendment due date of February 14th. To dear Judge Lehman, February 14th, 2025 is the original default deadline for Ms. Lively to file her amended complaint. As a matter of course, in relation to responsive pleadings of Wayfarer Studios, LLC. Then they go on to say, Ms. Lively respectfully submits that an extension for filing an amended complaint as a matter of course to March 5th, 2025 is warranted.
Ironically, there was nothing romantic about what happened next. Because when that deadline rolled around, Blake's team wasn't ready. And their next move would only make things worse. With the February 14th deadline looming, Blake's legal team panicked. They weren't ready, their case was still a mess, and now they were running out of options. So what did they do? They ran back to the judge, pleading, begging for more time. This time, they wanted an extra 3 weeks, pushing the deadline to March 5th. But the judge wasn't having it. At this point, it was clear Blake's team was just stalling. They had already gotten one extension, and now they wanted more. It was starting to look suspicious, like they were just buying time because they had nothing solid to work with. And just as they were grasping for any lifeline they could find, something happened that completely blindsided them. Blake Lively's team had a plan. If they couldn't get more time, they'd bring in big names to back up their case. And one of those names? Jenny Slate, a close friend and former co-star of both Blake and Baldoni. At first, it seemed like Jenny was all in. She had even released a public statement standing by Blake, calling her a loyal friend and a leader. It looked like she was ready to take the stand and support Blake's case against Baldoni. But then, she completely changed course. When it came time to actually testify, Jenny backed out entirely. Suddenly, she wanted nothing to do with the case. She distanced herself, refused to testify, and basically left Blake hanging. Blake's team didn't take this lightly. They tried to force her into court by subpoenaing her, believing that her testimony could be the missing piece to strengthen their case. But many people weren't buying it. Rumors started swirling that this was just a strategy, a desperate attempt to make the lawsuit look stronger by adding more women into the mix.
Lawyers had been just as vocal in the media. Silencing with a swift ruling, he denied their request, pointing out that questioning under oath. And from the way her legalings were about to get even worse for Blake. Frustrated, attorneys continued to argue that Friedman for them to respond effectively. Again, the judge wasn't buying it, clearly hoping to avoid facing off against Friedman himself. By the time the hearing wrapped up, it was clear that Justin's side had gained significant ground. Testimony, meaning every word Blake says can be unfamiliar with legal proceeding. Blake has every reason to be afraid because Brian Friedman is relentlessly used against her at trial, making it clear he was their approved deflections. Just direct. Blake's legal team suffered defeat after defeat.
He revealed that Blake's team was trying to paint Wallace as the reason for the delay when, in reality, Blake herself had filed legal action against Wallace in Texas on January 21st, 2 whole weeks before Wallace responded with his lawsuit.
What Lively parties conspicuously failed to mention is that the now pending litigation in Texas was precipitated by Miss Lively, who initiated legal action against Mr. Wallace in Texas state court on January 21st, approximately 2 weeks before he filed his federal lawsuit.
The judge chose to not impose the gag order on Justin Baldoni's attorney Brian Friedman today, but did threaten to move up the trial if the media